This presentation is about the project that we talked about in the morning. In the opening remarks, many people talked about this, and this is a very important project. It's called Climate Resilient Forest and Landscape Restoration Program, which actually came out of this series of workshops and program that was initiated by Professor Chang. So we started 2017, and out of work that was done, discussions and understanding the situation in Ethiopia as a kind of policy brief or a result of what we have been doing, we came up with this idea and we submitted this to COICA. So I'm going to present this. It will be just about the project and a little bit about GGGI in Ethiopia. So I think many people know GGGI Ethiopia, what you are doing, but I will just go through this very, very fast. About CRG and CRG facility, I think everybody knows that we have been there since 2010, and we participated and supported the government in the preparation of CRGE as a strategy, but also the strategy needed funding. So we participated in the establishment of CRG facility, which is there running, and it's coordinated actually by GGGI. And also we supported some technical and analytical studies, especially trying to get some development of sector-wide system for tracking climate expenditure for the major sectors of CRGE. Last year, from 2019 and last year and this year actually, we have been working on industrial park, and the whole objective is trying to make industrial parks green or eco-industrial parks, as they are mentioned in many documents in Ethiopia. So we tackled 3 pillars: wastewater management business plan and reuse in Hawassa IP. So we did a feasibility study, and we tried also to establish a business plan. We have finished, and this is with the GIZ. So we proposed some intermediary actually solutions so that by the time we move to the full, when you have like a 17 industrial park, we can be able to have a business model. We prepared a feasibility study of rooftop solar PV, because we think that Ethiopian industrial park can be able to benefit from the solar PVs. And this was the first one for those industrial parks. It's done also. And we also prepared a greening roadmap for Ethiopian industrial parks, because you have industrial parks, but how do you make them sustainable? So we wanted to have a kind of roadmap that we finished with the GIZ always. And also we thought about the climate positive cotton textile supply chain. From the cotton to the supply of the finished products, t-shirts, jeans, and all that, some industries wanted to have this, to understand how much is being polluted along the value chain so that they can be able to reduce the pollution. So we are working on this with H&M, and we will continue next year. So we have some projects that are going on. We're trying to do a low emission development strategy for Ethiopia to 2050. And this will be a project that will be sponsored by a French development agency, Agence Française de Développement, and also they will be supporting the city of Addis Ababa for a feasibility study of using e-buses as opposed to the fuel buses. And on Article 6, we are in discussion with headquarters and also Sweden to see how we can be able to start actually preliminary preparation, as I think Professor Chang talked about this very long about Article 6. So we want to have the preliminary understanding and preparation. So we are going to do this year and going to the next year some feasibility study on mini grids in rural areas to see how rural people can have more electricity, because there is electricity in rural areas, but there is more need of electricity. We are also going to have a project on solar powered irrigation to sustain, transform Ethiopian lowland agriculture. This is a project that is ongoing on the ideation and preparation. And finally, on sustainable landscape, we have climate resilient forest landscape restoration program that I'm going to present right now. So we have been helping also the government climate diplomacy. Frank talked about this, and also on readiness and NAP. trying to get money from the GCF. Currently, we have an app of 2.8 million that is underway, and we work with different donors. And for this project, particular Korea, South Korea, and represented by KOICA, Ethiopia, they are the ones that we are working with. So the climate resilient forest and the land restoration program, just if you read this quotation that I found from some publication, Ethiopia is facing rapid deforestation and degradation of land resources. The increasing population has resulted in extensive forest clearing for agricultural use, overgrazing, and exploitation of existing forests for fuel, wood, fodder, and construction materials. Even if you were to remove Ethiopia here and you put some other different African countries, you will get the same meaning. And if you look at the place where this text is, you can see that you have like water courses, some lakes, which are totally, the surroundings are totally degraded. And you can see the effect of erosion, and the waters end up changing. And then at the end of the day, we get siltation, and with all the danger that you can have. So our project will be protecting some of these areas, which will be selected actually before December. So the process of this, I mean, there are several meetings with KOICA, Ethiopia, with Korea University represented by Professor Chang, and we try to see if the idea that we had was aligned with the government priorities and also KOICA priorities. And fortunately, we realized by the time we were discussing with them, KOICA was actually aiming at widening its programs in Ethiopia and have an approach on green economy and climate change response that focuses on job creation, inclusion of youth and women, poverty reduction, and also intensive stakeholders consultations. We realized that those merged exactly with what we wanted to do. And then from there, we prepared a project and the whole process started. So what you see here, the picture you see of these very jovial, happy people, this was in January 2020, before coronavirus. When people came to Ethiopia, you could see the team and you could recognize some of, like Professor Park is there, Professor Chang is there, and others. This was at the end of fact-finding mission, because we had to visit some areas in Ethiopia where similar projects are being done, so that people can see from themselves how it works and all that. And it was very, very good. So the process for approval is going on, and we think this will be done soon. And I would like to really thank here Professor Tang and KOICA, Ethiopia, and also the Commission. So the way I'm going to present this project, as you know, it has impacts. So what you see above here, the two lines, these are impacts. And yeah, these are two impacts. And then if you look down at the columns, these are the outcomes. And down there, I'll show you what will be the output so that you understand what this project will bring out. But I would also like to underline that the project will have about, if everything goes well, we will have 12 million US dollar to do that, and we will cover 13,000 hectares of degraded lands in selected watersheds. So the three outcomes are about institutional arrangements, it's about site appropriate technologies, and the green finance mechanism. And if you combine all these together, the outcomes will lead to forest conservation and restoration, which will be implemented as 13 hectares, as I said. And then we will also to be able to secure ecosystems that have really totally gone. And this will also have an effect of job creation, climate resilience, and also support green growth as a whole. So you see that this is a small project, but it will have a very good impact, and you can see the outcomes there. So the outcomes that I showed you there are, you know, in order to achieve this, these are the outputs that we are going to get. And if you look at the four outcomes rather, number one will be about policy framework related to international transferring of mitigation outcomes. So Professor Chang's presentation that took about 45 minutes, it was about explaining about these international markets and all that. So you see that this project that you are going to implement, it has a lot of emphasis on this. And we'll be able to have 4 outputs, one on policy, another on capacity building, and also MRV roadmap for water, forest, and agriculture. On the outcome number 2, we do have institutional arrangement that will in terms of the cross-sectoral land use planning implementation, because you know that these forests are planted on land, so these have to go hand in hand. As you look at outcome number 1, you look at outcome number 2. And in order to reach this, we will have about 4 outputs. And as you look at them, it will be a coordination of sectors. For people who have been working with the government, this is one of the main challenges, cross-sectoral coordination, because all these sectors are interrelated, are interlinked. And if you don't do that very well, then you end up failing. Gender inclusion and trying to make people participate from the beginning, and benefits, people have to understand what are they going to gain there so that they can be able get incentive to do the work. And then we have to make sure that who's going to do that. So there will be discussion at that level for watershed use associations that will be able to carry out these activities. This is ownership is very important. So the last two outcomes. The third one is site appropriate technologies, because in order to have all different sites like being well taken care of, you need technologies that are appropriate. Ethiopia has been planting trees for years, so these technologies are there. So we'll go through capacity building mechanism, targeting forestry and related institutions. We'll do forest restoration applied at lower level. We do integration of forest product value chains, and also we'll do forest carbon hydrological monitoring systems. And the last one, you cannot, in order to have sustainability, you need to think about money. So what happens when this project will finish at the end of 5 years? We will need to have prepared a way of getting green funding for continuation and covering more areas. So in order to have that project, as I told you, we had to see, is it a priority for the government? What do the national policies say? And we look at the CRG strategy, climate resilience strategy for agriculture, and NDC, and we realize that 3 of them, they are actually targeting what we will be doing. So we are in the right direction. But also we said, is this project aligned with the national forestry sustainable development plans? And we look at the 4 pillars. If you look here, you'll see that you have 4 pillars. And under the 4 pillars, there are things that need to be done. And at each level, you know, from the human capacity development, technology development, to establishment of new commercial plantation, to forest ecosystem services, up to the last one, which is about resourceful tree planting, supporting development of forest-based communities enterprises. On the right side, these outputs that you see here, MRV, capacity cross-sector, whatever, all these are responding to the 4 pillars that are in National Forestry Sustainable Development Plan. So we are totally in in line with the government plans. For example, if you look at the human capacity development, technology development, you see that we will focus on MRV capacity at the regional, water, forest, and agriculture water sectors. That is MRV at that, because we have MRV, we know that, but I think at each sector, they have to be strengthened very seriously. And as Professor Chang said, these will be very needed when we start this kind of transaction that we talked about. Cross-sectoral coordination that I talked about, gender inclusive participatory, capacity building on mechanism, including peer-to-peer, where we tap into Korean experience, and also trying to understand capacity building for international carbon transactions. So this is for the human capacity. If you go to establishing new commercial plantation, you know that we establish 4,000 hectares of community timber plantation. There will be support value chain integration and financial facility for result-based payment through local financial institutions. And this will be done as the output of our project. And if you go to the the pillar number 3, forest ecosystem services, forest biodiversity conservation, forest landscape restoration, which are really the objectives of the pillar 3, we would have 7,000 hectares of assisted new regeneration through exclosures as forest and landscape restoration. I think when I looked, I tried to read this because this was prepared by foresters and saw that this is exclosures are a lot used in Ethiopia, so this is not a new thing, but the mechanism is already there. There will be modeling and monitoring of carbon and hydrological processes, and also ad hoc financial mechanism support to implement payment for ecosystem services scheme and PPP arrangement. And this will be supporting pillar 3, and finally supporting pillar 4. We will make sure that yeah, the BSM at Kebele and community level support forest restoration, institutionalize the strength, that is like a watershed user association, women and youth forest enterprises. This is in the document, but when people go down on the ground, they see the reality and then they adapt. It's not like establishing something new, it's trying to see what is in there and then work on it. And also we will establish 2,000 hectares of community woodlands. If you take the 2,000 hectares, 7,000 hectares, 4,000 hectares, you end up with 13,000 hectares that will be the result of this project. So the project, as in terms of tree planting and management, they will be divided into 3, 4,000, 7,000, and 2,000. So I think given that we are in the period of coronavirus, you cannot finish the presentation without mentioning the benefits that will come out of that, because this is a project that will start next year, and it's planned to involve young people, women, and other people in the rural areas at a level, at a lower level, which means we will be able to create jobs, and then also the gender equality and social inclusion, because we said the nurseries and all these activities leading to forestry and all that, forest restoration will be carried out by those people who really need jobs. And the benefit sharing also on the ground activities, we say that we will establish the mechanism, building on the experience, and at the end, creation and the capacity building of community enterprises that will provide services. So once you have the forest restored, and you can have a lot of benefits, but what is also important is that we are trying to contribute to the initiative that was declared by the Prime Minister on green legacy. And also, you know what it comes out of the forests. Once you do the forest restoration, you can make sure that you have all these products that can be help timber and non-timber products that will support the communities, and also the outcome that you know for the climate change. So I still have, I think, 1 minute, and I would like to stop here and thank everybody who followed this presentation. I just want to mention that I'm not a forester, so I made this presentation just to show what, I mean, this project is going to bring what, but it was very well studied. The consultations were very well organized, because we did the first consultations with all the institutions and sectors that deal with forests. And we were able to get like a consensus really that this is a very good project. And then when the team came from Korea for fact-finding mission, we visited the World Bank projects that are almost similar, and we made presentations, and everybody liked this project. So now the challenge is the implementation that will start next year. But GGGI will work with all you guys so that we can be able to have a very good project. It's not small. A 12 million project is not very small. It's actually good. And then from there, we can even build up and get more money and, you know, make more and more land restoration. So I would like to thank the team that organized it, and Professor Chang again, who really made the idea come out. I would like to thank Koika, which is represented here. I saw Mr. Shin. We worked like closely, and we started almost communicating in Korean, because we are together almost all the time. So thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Doctor, for your productive presentation. And now I would like to give the floor to Professor Soyoung Chung for moderating the Q&A session.
Uh, Thank you, Innocent, for your presentation. Your presentation reminded me of the, hard time and activities that we had earlier this year as a part of the fact-finding mission. It was one of the hardest tasks that I have ever been engaged with. And then I'm very happy to see that most of the words that we produced still remain in your document. So,
exactly.
Yeah, I'm especially very pleased to see your presentation. As Innocent introduced, this is the very likely project that will be implemented from next year for 5 years by the GGGI for the government of the Ethiopia. And then almost every component that we have been discussing about is embedded actually in this project document. Right? My presentation on what I talked about 6.2 mechanism MRV, actually it's the first component, as you may have noticed. And then what Professor Son and then Sawat and then Chris mentioned, they are here and there, right? And then it's in the context of implementing CRGE as a best example to implement actually Paris Agreement by one of the member countries of the UNFCCC. So I'd rather congratulate Ethiopia to have this very wonderful activity. And then I think that this project will become another basis to be scaled up later on to get further funding, hopefully through Article 6 mechanisms, right, from different donors.
Sure.
Having said that, I think I see one question from the chat room. Thank you so much for all your presentation and in-depth explanation. As you may know, currently Ethiopia has aggressively working on tree planting programs. Hence, the successful implementation, as well as for further monitoring and evaluation of this program, I think statistical data with a sufficient coverage of the key aspects of tree planting program will be required. So what should Ethiopia do in this regard? Innocent, can you answer on this?
Yeah, actually, thank you very much. What you are saying is totally true, because if you really want to do a good monitoring and evaluation, you need to make sure that you have the data that will be able to indicate if you have, achieved what you are supposed to achieve or not. So I think, given that this project was prepared by GGGI, with Korea University and guided by COICA, but the project belongs to the commission, which has very able and people who really understand forestry and who have done implementation, all that. And also they have the forestry unit that is working on this. But if you look at, you are to see the whole document, we have prepared a very well detailed monitoring and evaluation mechanism that will be followed, because this is actually one of the requirements of the COICA, because they want to see that the money that was given has reached the result. So we will do that. Thank you very much for for emphasizing on that. But I just want to tell you that the mechanism in the project have been prepared so that we can be able to get a very well organized monitoring and evaluation. And COICA will have actually a unit that will be also dealing with that. So there will be a very good combination from the technical level, COICA, and from Ethiopia, GGI, and the commission and the other stakeholders, and be able to get a very good monitoring and evaluation results.
Okay, thank you. We have about a minute to go, but I would be happy to take another question if you have. You can just speak out if you want to raise any question. Or as I do in the classroom, should I designate one person to speak out?
Sure.
Anybody? I think people will start to get very tired today. We are having the various sessions today. So maybe next time, then we will have another round of the discussions on this matter. Once again, this what Innocent has just presented on is one of the two major goals that this current project has been working on for the last 3 years. And then all our partners are very happy actually to have this likely outcome that will be implemented from next year. Of course, with very generous support of the KOICA. Director Kim is here in this room. I'm looking at, here's a window here. And then we really thank for the KOICA for their generous support on this endeavor. So having said that, this is the end of the session, and then now I'd like to give the floor back to the Gian.